All right, everybody. Welcome to episode 120 of Sports Hype. Not that much to get through today, but first and foremost, we'll start with Dak Prescott set to undergo season-ending surgery on his partially torn hamstring. Obviously, we touched on this in the last episode as well, and we believe that it was right for Dak to sit out for the year. It looks like Dak agreed, so we'll go over what this means for the Cowboys, as well as if we think it was the right move for Dak Prescott and his future with the Cowboys. And then, unfortunately, another injury-riddled player in the NFL, concussion-wise, is Chris Olave. Because of that, he has been placed on IR due to his most recent concussion. He might be shut down for the season as well, given the Saints' record and their odds to make the playoffs. So we will share our thoughts on what this means for the Saints, as well as what we think Olave's future is in the NFL if he continues to get hit the way he has been this year. And then before getting into some trades, we have a contract extension. The Panthers and running back Chuba Hubbard agreed on a 4-year, $33.2 million contract extension, which includes $15 million guaranteed and has a max value of $37.2 million. So we will go through this move by the Carolina Panthers. And there was a lot of trades this past week, as the trade deadline was this past Tuesday. So first and foremost, the Saints traded cornerback Marshawn Lattimore and a 5th-round pick to the Commanders for a 3rd-round pick, 4th-round pick, and a 6th-round pick. So we will share our thoughts on this move, as well as what it means for both teams. And the Browns traded edge rusher Zadarius Smith and a 2026 7th-round pick to the Detroit Lions for a 2025 5th-round pick and a 2026 6th-round pick. So we'll provide our feedback on this move for both teams. And then Geo Steelers were active at the trade deadline as well, getting both edge rusher Preston Smith and wide receiver Mike Williams. The Packers traded edge rusher Preston Smith to the Steelers for a 7th-round pick, and then the Jets traded Mike Williams to the Steelers for a 2025 5th-round pick. So we'll go over both those moves for the Steelers and hear the Steelers fans' thoughts on both of them. And then the Panthers traded wide receiver Jonathan Mingo and a 7th-round pick to the Cowboys for a 4th-round pick. We'll go over, was this a good move for the Dallas Cowboys? I'll give my insight on that. And then to round out the podcast, we'll touch on the Rams trading cornerback Tre'Davious White and a 2027 7th-round pick to the Ravens for a 2026 7th-round pick. But as I said, we'll start with Dak Prescott most likely undergoing season-ending surgery on a partially torn hamstring. He's trying to see one more specialist next week to see if he really needs the surgery, because he's trying to avoid it. But it seems like he is going to be shut down for the season. So what's your opinion on this whole situation, Gio?
For himself and for the Cowboys' future, this is smart, especially since he just signed that contract extension. If he has some sort of major injury, right, if he tries to fight through injury upon injury right through the season, they might, like you said, get a wild card spot. Possibly depends. You never know what happens after that. But what it looks like right now is they would lose in that wild card round, just because of how incomplete your guys' team is right now. Obviously, you need weapons for him to throw to. Obviously, you need a running game. Your offensive line could use a little help. Defensively, you're just not there, right? Your players aren't healthy. You need health on your side, and unfortunately, this just isn't your year. This is a chess move being played by the Dallas Cowboys, and I think this is the right move.
Yeah, I agree. As I said in the previous podcast, even before it was announced that he might need season-ending surgery, I didn't want him coming back in the first place because of what you just said. Like, we just paid him an abundant amount of money, and if he continues to fight through this hamstring, say he was placed on IR and came back 4 games later with a playoff spot on the line, that hamstring can react very quickly. Like, hamstrings are not hard to re-injure. They're very easy to re-injure. So one wrong step, he could have re-injured it and been down for even longer than what he will be if he gets a season-ending surgery, which will be 4 months. So I think, as you said, this is the right move for both Dak's future and the Cowboys' future. I don't think even if Dak Prescott came back this year that the Cowboys were going to make the playoffs. It's just, as you said, health hasn't been on our side. The defense hasn't been good at all. The coaching hasn't been good. It's just all things bunched in one. Just everything has been a terrible year from the start, actually from the offseason on, when Jerry Jones decided not to make any moves. And that was really what determined the fate of our year. I knew coming in that it would be a rough year, but I didn't think it'd be this rough. But unfortunately, that's the case. And I think it's best to shut Dak Prescott down and see what we do in the offseason and see what pick we can get and move on from there, draft and free agency wise, hopefully, if Jerry Jones is smart enough to make some free agent signings.
For sure.
Moving on to a very injury-riddled player, Chris Olave, being placed on IR due to a concussion. I think it's his second concussion this year, about his third in like the last 4 or 5 years. So a very similar situation to Tua Tagovailoa, who is obviously back in the Dolphins quarterback position. Olave, though, might be shut down for the year due to the Saints being 2-7 and not having a shot to make the playoffs. So what's your thoughts on this situation, Gio?
Yeah, this is terrible. Same with Tua. They're two great players that are just having unfortunate injuries, right? With Chris Olave, just the hits he's had to his head. Trying to tackle, it's just terrible to see, especially since the last one kind of reminded me of an Antonio Brown type situation. It wasn't like Vontaze Perfect, intentionally trying to hit Antonio Brown, right? That was intentional. This wasn't intentional, and unfortunately, it came with the same case scenario where he goes down, right? Gets a concussion. These guys that have, I think there should be a limit. There should be a rule. There should be some sort of regulation to where you have so many concussions, you're done. I mean,
I think the regulation should be that you have to wear a guardian cap, whether you want to or not.
That doesn't have to be the case. I mean, you have 3 concussions in your career, you're done. You should just be done. Okay. It should be an instant retirement for players that have misconduct, for players that don't follow regulations, right? And do illegal behavior, anything like that, right? Look at Johnny Football. He's not going into a league because he did all the bad stuff he did in the past, right? It should be the same case with people's health. That should come first. If you have 3 concussions, you're done. That's it. You're not playing football anymore. It should be that.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, because like we talked about, obviously, before Tua return that we thought he should retire. So I was going to ask you, do you think it's time for Olave to take a step back and think about it? Because I saw his brother tweeted on Twitter, obviously. He said, a fan asked, is it worth it for him to keep playing? And he said, it's not in NOLA, I can tell you that. So it seems like he still wants to play, but his brother isn't very supportive of him staying in New Orleans.
I would agree. He should play somewhere else if he were to play. But at the same time, I think it would be the best move. Roger Goodell would be hated by players. But if he put in a regulation saying that you get 3 to 4 major concussions, and the doctors say it's a major concussion, you're done. That's it.
Yeah, I agree. I was thinking the same thing, because obviously he's meeting with specialists just like Tua did. And these specialists are obviously professionals, but at the same time, they can't look into the brain and see the effects that you are taking at each and every week. Like they're just going based off what you tell them. And you could honestly be disoriented with the amount of concussions you've gotten. Like you could forget some of the concussions you've had because of how many concussions or hits to the head you have taken. So I agree that the league has obviously been trying to, get the concussion numbers down by making defenders pretty much useless, trying to help them, not use their helmet and stuff. They can't touch the quarterback and stuff. So, but at some point, you got to do something else. You got to do something different, because obviously what you have done for the defenders has not worked.
Well, even then, obviously the guardian caps are, are away, and then you just mentioned all the rules and regulations they just put on the defense. As a player, as an athlete, all you hear is words from a doctor. That's it. You don't. I'm going to be completely honest. You do not care what they say.
No, I mean, if you already made up your mind that you're going to keep playing, you don't care what they say.
That's it. The only words you care about are when you ask the question, "Can I keep playing?" and they say, "At your own risk," or "You have a slight chance." Whatever. If there's a chance, you're going to want to play. So that's why I think there has to be a regulation, a rule set, because every player in their right mind would want to play because they are an athlete, they're a competitor. There's a rule put in place that forces them out of the game. That will be, one, better for their health, and two, that will lead to, let's hope, like a longer longevity, right, of the players. That a lot of players who get these types of concussions, they don't live past 45, 50. So
Yeah, I mean,
with that, Roger Goodell would honestly be saving lives.
right. Or they turn into, crazy lunatics like Aaron Hernandez. No one knew what was going on in his brain. Like the fact that, I don't know, man. I do agree. I think that Goodell has to do something different. Like I said, either make the Guardian caps required. They shouldn't be an option for certain players like a Tua Tagovailoa or a Chris Olave, or like you said, put a regulation in that says max concussion number you can have is 3 or 4. After that, I have to do what's best for your future, even if you don't want me to. Because if you look at a player like Antonio Brown, he's pretty crazy nowadays. It's not because he's always been crazy. It's because of the amount of hits to the head he took.
For sure.
So I think I think Goodell, obviously, like you said, he would not be liked by the players, but he's already not liked. So no one likes the commissioner. At some point, you got to be an even worse guy towards the players to better their health. So I think that's something Goodell should look at. But as you said, it's very unfortunate for Chris Olave to be in this situation. And I wish a speedy recovery to him, but I do think that the Saints should shut him down for the year and get him healthy for next year, because at this point, you're not going anywhere the rest of this year.
Right.
But moving on to another NFC South team, the Panthers and running back Chuba Hubbard agreed on a 4-year, $33.2 million contract extension, and includes $50 million guaranteed and has a max value of $37.2 million. What's your opinion on this move, Gio?
I love it. I think Hubbard is a great back. The only thing is, it is with the Carolina Panthers. What are they going to do with him? I think he would be better off going to a contending team because he is such a great player. But at the same time, good for him. Get that bag, and put your family into a better situation.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a great signing for the Panthers because Chuba Hubbard has been fantastic for them. He's opened up a lot of eyes there, and he's willing to do whatever it takes to win, which is why they were willing to sign him to this contract. And I think when Jonathan Brooks gets healthy, the rookie running back out of Texas, that could be a great 1-2 punch for them moving forward. But like you said, they got to shore up a lot of things defensively and offensively to make them a much better team than they have been. But I believe that they're going in the right track. They just have to, I'd say, like 2-3 more years, and they could be a borderline playoff team.
For sure.
But moving on to a very big trade for the Washington Commanders. They traded for cornerback Marshawn Lattimore and a 5th-round pick for a 3rd-round pick, a 4th-round pick, and a 6th-round pick. So what's your thoughts on this move by the Commanders, Gio?
This is amazing. This is probably the best move they could have done. They want to win now. They see that they have the talent. They want to strike while the iron is hot. And for them to add this type of depth to their defense, it just shows that they want to win now, that this is their time. They want, to show that Jaden Daniels that they want to win. They want to show Terry that they want to win. So for me, this is the best move they could have done. Anything else they would have done, I'm not too sure about. I think their offense is pretty complete. Obviously, they're trying to work on their defensive depth. So this is the best move they could have done, and let's hope that this can work out for them for this playoff run that they're going to have.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a great move by the Commanders. As a Cowboys fan, I'm pretty upset about it because I did not want Marshawn Lattimore in my division, obviously. But great move by the Commanders. He's a great cornerback. He just has to get that hamstring right. And when he does, he's going to be an elite corner for the Commanders. And as you said, the Commanders, their weakest spot was cornerback. So this was the best move that they could make to make sure that they can make a deep playoff run with Jaden Daniels back there at quarterback and Terry McLaurin back there at receiver. And I think that this move alone could push them to a deep horse NFC team. I'm not saying they could make the NFC Championship, but I think they put themselves in the mix to make that championship game with this move.
For sure.
Moving on to the Browns trading edge rusher Zadarius Smith and a 2026 7th-round pick to the Lions for a 2025 5th-round pick and a 2026 6th-round pick. What's your view on this, Gio?
I like it. One, can you repeat that again? What did the Lions give up?
They gave up a 2025 5th-round pick and a 2026 6th-round pick.
And this was for who again?
For Zadarius Smith and a 2026 7th-round pick from the Browns.
I mean, I think this is the right move. One, for the Browns, just because they are trying to rebuild, add a lot of draft capital, and for the Lions, I mean, this just adds on to the gauntlet of stardom that they already have. Obviously, Hutcherson is hurt, right? Mm-hmm. So they need all the talent that they can get right now and all the pieces that they need in order to win that Super Bowl that they're so desperately looking for right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think this was a great move by the Lions solely because obviously they lost Aiden Hutchinson for the year unless they make the Super Bowl. If they do make the Super Bowl, he has the potential to play in that game. But this is a great get for them to replace Aiden Hutchinson until the Super Bowl if they do end up making that. And as you said, for the Browns, yeah, they're just rebuilding. So I think this is a great move for them. Get your star pass rusher out of there as soon as possible. Let him go to a contender. Let him potentially compete for a Super Bowl instead of rotting on a team, on a bottom of the barrel team. But I think for the Lions that this could really push them over the edge, especially next year when they get both Zadarius Smith on one edge and then Aiden Hutchinson on the other. That makes their pass rush that much more dangerous, and they could be a threat for years to come.
For sure.
But I think that the Lions are the favorite in the NFC to make the championship game and maybe even the Super Bowl at this point. Do you agree with that?
No.
Who do you think is the favorite out of the NFC?
I think it's very tough. One, obviously, you're looking at the Lions and what they did to Green Bay right now.
Right.
So I think the recency there is good. I don't think it's going to be the Eagles just because of coaching. I think they have enough talent, but coaching-wise, I don't think, obviously, you look at what they're doing right now, but to put it all together for a great playoff run, I don't think it's going to happen. You look at the San Francisco 49ers, and
they are getting healthy at the right time.
Health, right? So as long as those guys are healthy, I believe the San Francisco 49ers are definitely going to win. But I mean, I wouldn't be shocked that Detroit wins the NFC.
So are you saying you expect a rematch of last year's Super Bowl as of right now?
A rematch of last year's Super Bowl.
That's your prediction?
My prediction for the Super Bowl?
Well, I was just wondering, like, you're saying that you think the 49ers are going to make the NFC Championship and make the Super Bowl, correct?
That's right. Yep. That's the
only
time.
I'm assuming you have the Chiefs?
No.
You don't?
Nope.
Okay, because you always say you're never going to bet against Mahomes again, and here you go again.
I'm not. Here's the thing. I'm not betting against Mahomes. If that team is healthy, 100%. Yeah. You look at all of those players that they have, and with Patrick Mahomes, they're going to win.
Mm-hmm.
But they're winning. They're winning their games very, very close right now.
They are, yes.
You look at, I hate to say it, but the Baltimore Ravens and what they were able to do in 1.5 quarters against the Bengals, Their
Yeah,
defense is very suspect, but
they are.
the
Yes.
offense, that offense is phenomenal. So, I mean, it would definitely be a shootout between the Ravens and the Chiefs.
Mm.
And since I'm discussing that, I would have to go Chiefs.
So you are saying you do expect a rematch?
Well, it took because I was thinking Ravens this whole time, but
Yeah.
since I discussed the fact that their defense is very suspect, and we're thinking it's going to be a shootout. If it's always
Mhm.
going to be a shootout, it's going to be Patrick Mahomes. He is the best gunslinger in the game right now, and you're not going to, beat him in a duel. I don't think ever. He
Yeah.
beats all the time.
Yeah, he's absolutely insane. I agree. That's why I do have the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, but I don't think it's going to be a rematch. I think the Lions are going to get over the hump. They were that close last year of being the 49ers, and I think this year they'll get over that hump and make Super Bowl. I'm not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl because, as
Right.
you said, I'm never going to bet against Patrick Mahomes, but I think they'll at least make the Super Bowl.
Right.
And I hope that's the case because I'm trying to see it at least one different team because I don't think anyone's beating the Chiefs in the AFC. I mean, the way obviously, like you said, they're winning close games, but all that matters is that they're winning. And as long as they have Patrick Mahomes, they're going to keep winning.
And I mean, it's going to be very close. You have a lot of good teams in the AFC right now. One, you got the Ravens. Two, you got you do have the Bills. And
Yeah,
three,
it's just for me, like I don't trust the Ravens because they always Lamar specifically always falls apart in the playoffs, and then I don't trust the Bills because the Chiefs are just their kryptonite.
yeah. How about them Steelers? We haven't seen the Steelers have a quarterback in 6+ years.
That is true. And if they do make it to the championship game and beat, say the Ravens or the Bills, I think that they are their best bet to beat the Chiefs, to be honest with you, because of their
Just
defense alone.
100%. Their defense alone. And then if they just have a solid offense, because the defense carries us all the time. The defense carried us. But if we can get a good offense rolling with George Pickens, with Calvin Austin, with now we got Mike Williams as our third guy, you never know.
Yeah, I mean they're the deep horse in the AFC, just like the Commanders are the deep horse in the NFC, in my opinion.
Do you say deep horse or do you mean dark horse?
Yeah, I meant dark horse. My fault.
Okay, you've been saying deep horse this whole time.
Yeah, that's my fault. But speaking of the Steelers, obviously they were active at the trade deadline, improving their defense. The Packers traded edge rusher Preston Smith to the Steelers for a 7th-round pick. So, what's your thoughts on that move specifically?
I love this. I mean, one, because we're thinking smart because Herbig, TJ, right? They get hurt. Okay.
Right.
You need that other guy there. Especially say Nick Herbig goes down or TJ. We just need that depth, right? Once though one of those two guys go down, we're solely relying on Highsmith, Hayward. I mean, we do have a great defense. Look at Highsmith, look at Hayward. We got Patrick Queen. It's phenomenal. We got Minka. So that being said, it just adds on to our depth, allows us to, have a safety blanket just in case one of our star guys goes down, and it's a great move.
Yeah, I agree. I saw this move and I was like very surprised that they added their defense, but it shows me how much they're wanting to win, and they didn't have to give up much for a great edge rusher in Preston Smith either. So like you might as well do that deal. And like you said, TJ Watt, hopefully he stays healthy, but he does have an injury history. Herbig has a very long injury history. I think he's the more likely one to get hurt. And if that is the case, then you just throw a Preston Smith in there with TJ Watt there. So now Watt doesn't have to put too much on his body and hurt himself. So I think this is a great get for the Steelers. And if all three of them stay healthy, that's 3 elite edge rushers off of the defensive line, and quarterbacks in the AFC better be weary about that.
Right.
Especially with Patrick Queen up the middle at middle linebacker with his speed as well.
Yep.
And then Fitzpatrick sometimes blitz as well. So, I mean, like that defense could win, as we said, could win games alone by themselves.
That's right.
And then they were in search of a wide receiver 2 to pair with George Pickens. They got that done as well with the Jets trading Mike Williams to the Steelers for a 2025 fifth-round pick. So how do you feel about this move?
I like it. One, he does have a history injury, so we'll get that out of the way first. That makes me a little weary about it, but I think it's good for both parties just because, one, he wasn't getting utilized on the Jets, and then two, he'll fit perfectly with Russell Wilson. Just because Russell Wilson, I do believe, makes everybody better around him. And once he gets enough targets where he's going to get the targets here, I think he'll be utilized correctly, and we'll make sure that our offense starts rolling.
Yeah, I agree. I think the only reason I'm worried about it as well is just because of his injury history, like you said. But hopefully he stays healthy for you guys, because it can't just be George Pickens alone and Pat Freiermuth. Those two couldn't do it by themselves come playoff time, and I think the Steelers knew that, so that's why they went out and got a Mike Williams. So I think that was a great move by them. And now you have two deep threats, obviously George Pickens on the left side and Mike Williams on the right side. So the defense has to pick one to guard, and if you choose one, the ball is going to the other one. So I think this is a great get for them, because obviously we already know Russell Wilson likes to sling the ball, and now he has two big wide receivers, which he likes. Big wide receivers he can throw deep to, who can go up and get it. So I think this is a great move by the Steelers, and I think Mike Williams is going to fit in perfectly. I think he was just kind of the odd man out at New York. He never got his opportunity even before Davante Adams got there. And once Davante Adams got there, they just pretty much said, yeah, you're the odd man out. You got to pack your bags. So I think this is a great fresh start for Mike Williams. I think he's going to remind people of who he is at Pittsburgh.
For sure.
Moving on to the Panthers trading wide receiver Jonathan Mingo and a 7th-round pick to the Cowboys for a 4th-round pick. Do you think this was a good move by Dallas? Before I give you my thoughts.
I mean, it's all right. I mean, I think they just did this just to say that they made a move.
So knowing Jerry, yeah, he did. I guarantee you he did.
Just to keep the fans at bay, be like, hey, we did something.
And then he says, we liked Mingo in the draft process, so we wanted to get him. Then why wouldn't you just draft him?
Exactly.
But yeah, keep going.
I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me of why you guys would do that. But at the same time, I think it's just to keep the fans at bay.
Yeah, I don't like this move at all. Jonathan Mingo is, if he couldn't do very well in the Panthers, I don't think he's going to do much better on Dallas. Like, obviously, he'll be wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3 behind Jalen Tolbert, but he'll get more opportunities. But if he couldn't do well on a terrible Carolina Panthers team, what makes you think that he's going to do any better on a Dallas Cowboys team? And it's not even that I'm mad about. It's more so that we give him a 4th-round pick for a receiver who hasn't proven himself. I'd rather have kept that 4th-round pick and used it on a receiver in the draft who has proven himself in the college game and can translate to the pros, unlike Jonathan Mingo. So I think that's what has me the most upset, because you look at DeAndre Hopkins went for a 5th-round pick. Amari Cooper went for a 5th or 6th-round pick, and then Mike Williams went for a 5th-round pick. And we're over here giving out a 4th-round pick for Jonathan Mingo. That just doesn't look good. But like you said, it's a typical Jerry Jones move. He doesn't do the smartest of things, and he wanted to keep the fans at bay. But even and now looking back on it, we don't have Dak Prescott for the rest of the year. It's pretty much a waste of a move, because it's not like Cooper Rush is going to get him the ball. It was pretty much a waste of a move, and as you said, most likely done by Jerry to get the fans off his back a little bit.
That's it.
But it's not going to make any difference for the Cowboys, and I think it was a terrible move by the Cowboys, personally.
I agree.
But to round out the podcast, we'll touch on the Rams trading cornerback Tre'Davious White and a 2027 7th-round pick to the Baltimore Ravens for a 2026 7th-round pick. What's your thoughts on this, Gio?
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly what they needed. They needed to add to their secondary. So for them to do that, it was probably their best move that they should have done, just because they got rid of pretty much every secondary they had, right, in the offseason, and their key pieces. And we do appreciate that over on the Steelers side, by the way. But at the same time, yeah, for them to get better, I think this was the best move they could have done.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think Tre'Davious White is as good as what he used to be with Buffalo in his prime years, but he's still a above average cornerback in the NFL, and he will help them, especially, given Kyle Hamilton just went down this past Thursday against the Bengals with what looked like a severe ankle injury. Probably be out for a week or two is my guess. So I'm assuming they'll slide Tre'Davious White into that. Well, Kyle Hamilton's kind of a safety, but he also does play corner as well. So I'm assuming they'll slide him into that role until Kyle Hamilton gets healthy, then put him at cornerback when Kyle Hamilton is healthy. But I think this is a great move for the Ravens. As you said, their defense has been a little suspect. Obviously, Jamar Chase just went off for 264 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 11 catches against them. So I think their weakest spot was cornerback, and that showed against the Bengals. And I think that this cornerback trade it's not going to improve it drastically, but it will improve it to the point where it could be enough to, help them potentially. I'm not going to say they'll beat Kansas City, but potentially give them a chance to beat Kansas City.
Yep.
Because they were close last year with all those weapons that they had, and now, but prior to this trade, I don't think they were close. But now with this trade, they could be a little closer.
I think what it's going to end up to be, that's going to bite them in the butt, right, is getting rid of Patrick Queen. I think Patrick Queen is that difference maker on whether or not the Steelers or the Ravens move through the playoffs. I think the Ravens are definitely going to be missing him when it comes postseason.
Yeah, I agree. Like when they let him go to the Steelers, I was very surprised, let alone let him go, but let him go to an AFC North division rival. That shocked me even more. But letting him go shocked me as well. Like he was your captain on defense. He called out the plays. He did everything. And him and Roquan Smith had great chemistry. Like those were 2 elite linebackers at that level. I think they chose Roquan Smith, but I think they could have found a way to keep both together. And if they did that, that would have been even better than what their defense is now.
For sure.
Because Roquan Smith, no knock on him. Like he's not bad, but if you could have kept those 2 together, it would have been even better.
Oh, for sure.
But anything going on in the sneaker world since we last talked?
Yeah, I will say that a lot of sneakers are coming out. One is the Jordan 4 Fears. Great looking shoe. I will say I believe it hasn't come out. The only other time it's come out is 2012, 2014, something like that. So it's been at least a decade since that shoe's come out. Very sought after shoe. Look for it coming out, I believe, late November. So go check those out in the sneakers app. And what's going on in the video game world?
Yeah, no recent video game drops, but one coming out on December 6th sounded pretty interesting to me when I was doing my research. It's called Marvel Rivals. So it comes out on December 6th on Xbox Series X/S. I've never played the game and I never heard of it, so I did my research. It's pretty much, just if you're a Marvel fan, I would highly recommend it because it's all the Marvel superheroes put in one video game, kind of like Star Wars did with the Star Wars game. So I'll definitely check it out myself. And as I said, if you were a Marvel fan, I would definitely recommend checking it out as well. Otherwise, thank you all for watching and see you all in the next one.
Hey, thank you guys for watching. If you guys want to go ahead and go into the comment section below, I'm sure Nick Say is somewhere down there. If you guys want to give us any recommendations for our next podcast, or if you guys want to talk about anything that we said in this podcast, leave that down there as well. We'll make sure to look at it and make sure to reply to that as well. If you guys like this podcast, please give us a thumbs up. We really appreciate it. And like 2 wise men once said, subscribe. We'll see y'all on the next one. Peace.
Peace.